Hello, you're watching Halton News. I'm Melissa Candelaria, your host for tonight, filling in for Jessica Kading. Well, it seems that things are coming together quite nicely as we continue in the recovery phases in Ontario. Firstly, Premier Doug Ford announced today Halton is joining many parts of Ontario in Stage 3, which is great news if you've been feeling a little tired, COVID-19 fatigue, if you will, on the limitations of social gatherings. Now, as of Friday, indoor gatherings limits jumps from 10 to 50 people, and outdoor you can have a max of 100 people. You still have to maintain your social distancing from people outside of your circle, though. Now, this couldn't come at a better time as Halton Region passed a mandatory masks bylaw that comes into effect this week. Joining me on the program to talk more about this is Burlington Mayor Marianne Mead-Ward. How are you?
Excellent, thank you.
Good. And so, as I mentioned, I mean, things are coming together quite nicely, all meshing in anticipation for this mandatory masks bylaw. Couldn't come at a better time. It does take into effect on Wednesday. So let's talk about sort of the lead up to where we are this week.
So we go into Stage 3 at midnight on Friday morning, so 12:01 Friday morning. And, you know, I urge a lot of caution. I have mixed feelings about this. I certainly want our businesses to be back opening, and if they can do so safely, protecting the health of not only their staff, but their customers, then, you know, I know this will be good news for them. But I think we still need to be cautious. We absolutely need to be vigilant. And one of the reasons we did bring in the mandatory mask bylaw now was in anticipation of going into Stage 3 quickly, and here we are. So that is an added measure. Physical distancing is still very important. Proper hand sanitation, staying home when you're sick, all of these measures all together still have to be followed, and I encourage people and businesses to do so.
Now, of course, this doesn't, obviously, as you mentioned, it doesn't, I guess, prevent COVID from happening. I mean, these are non-medical masks, so it still can occur, but this is just an added safety measure to, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, slow down the process. And I know there's a lot of criticisms, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of criticisms out there, making this mandatory, that it should be a choice, not a mandatory rule.
So one of the reasons we, again, implemented the bylaw now was emerging scientific and health evidence that people who are asymptomatic can spread the virus. They don't know they have it yet because they don't have any symptoms. And you wear a mask to protect others from you. You wear a mask to protect you from being that transmitter of the virus. So if everybody is wearing a mask, we are all safer. And that's, again, one of the reasons we implemented it now. That emerging evidence, our medical officer of health said masks are an added layer of protection for COVID, for everybody's health and safety. They're not the only measure. And so we still have to continue to follow the physical distancing and all of the other measures that have been recommended since the beginning of this pandemic.
Now, I know we've talked about it before. You've been on the program talking about it as well. But again, you know, there still seems to be that criticisms of the masks. Of course, we've answered that, or the region has, by having certain exemptions in there. We know not everybody can wear it. So I know it gets into too much detail, but could you briefly outline some of these exemptions that will be in place as of Wednesday?
So children under 5, if you have a health condition, a breathing condition, it's not recommended that you wear a mask. If it's going to compromise your mental health or well-being, we have heard from some people that wearing a mask can trigger symptoms, mental health issues. So these are just some of the exemptions. If you're unable to put it on yourself, if you can't, you know, if somebody is developmentally delayed and has challenge putting it on or keeping it on. And we've said no one needs to show proof of an exemption according to our bylaw. However, it is important to note that businesses have always had the ability to add additional measures to keep their business and their employees safe. And we know some businesses are adding those measures, things like it's akin to the no shirt, no shoes, no service rule. Some will limit the number of people in their store, and they can refuse entry. Our bylaw doesn't, but they can take added measures to refuse entry if they don't feel they can keep their people safe. So it's important to note that. But first and foremost, I just urge people to be kind, to be non-judgmental, and to look after each other. There are reasons why people are not wearing a mask, and for some that will mean altering their shopping to online or curbside pickup. And I do know some businesses who are saying, look, we're not letting anyone in without a mask, but we'll bring stuff out to you. So they're really trying to accommodate everybody and do so safely. And that's the Burlington spirit.
Now, we've got about just a minute left here. I do wanted to ask you one last question about enforcement. Now, I know that Halton Hills last week had passed a bylaw. Obviously, it's kind of moot now with the region-wide bylaw, but they had implemented a $500 fine, things like that. Can you talk about, does the region have any similar, I guess, fines or punishments for not following the rules? And can enforcement really happen if you don't have a mask on?
So the region's bylaw, as well as Burlington's bylaw, has a $500 fine. Burlington's approach, we've issued 3 COVID-related tickets since the beginning of this pandemic. Our bylaw staff, first and foremost, try to understand what's happening and provide information about how people can voluntarily comply. So they only issue tickets for when they feel it is absolutely necessary. But yes, there is a $500 fine. Burlington has our own mask bylaw, as does Halton Region, but most of the modifications that were put in our bylaw, I brought forward to the region and they were supported there. So our bylaw and the regions are, for all practical purposes, the same.
Perfect. That's great. Well, I want to take this time to thank you for joining us on the program and keeping us updated. Of course, we can go to the Halton Region website for all the updates and specifics in the actual bylaw. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, well, as she said, you know, masks aren't foolproof. They won't protect you against COVID-19. You still have to do all that other stuff associated with protecting yourself, like washing your hands, maintaining social distancing and all that. We can all agree that we do want our numbers to go down. So speaking of which, if you look at today's numbers, as of 11:45 this morning, you will see 35 active cases, 25 deaths reported, and 834 recoveries. Now, what you won't see on the screen at the moment is that Halton Region reported 894 total cases overall. We are unfortunately getting closer to that 900 mark as new cases were reported in Burlington, Halton Hills, and Milton in the last several days. And among that 894 total cases, what's interesting is that 9% of them were residents or patients associated with confirmed institutional outbreaks. So those are places like retirement residents, nursing homes, and things like that. As I said, death total sits at 25 right now. Now, unfortunately, almost half those numbers, again, were residents or patients associated with confirmed institutional outbreak. Now, not everyone has easy access to masks. This is especially true for our most vulnerable residents, like our homeless. So, to help these residents and those helping them not only be ready for the bylaw come Wednesday, but to stay safe in general, the Canadian Medical Association Foundation, in collaboration with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, has donated $36,000 to Halton Region to provide personal protective equipment to agencies serving the homeless and those at risk of becoming homeless. This is all part of a $10 million nationwide initiative called the COVID-19 Community Response Fund for Vulnerable Populations. For more details on that, you can go to fcm.ca. Halton police have laid charges in connection to the death of the animal rights activist who was killed last month outside Fearman Slaughterhouse in Burlington. Just a quick reminder, it happened June 19th. Animal activist Regan Russell was struck by a transport truck that was hauling pigs through the gates of Fearman's Pork Slaughterhouse in Burlington. In their latest update, Halton police say the investigation included the Collision Reconstruction Unit, who did several interviews with witnesses, analyzed physical evidence, created a technical reconstruction of the collision, and analyzed video footage that captured the entirety of the incident. As a result, police have charged a 28-year-old man from North Perth with careless driving causing death under the Highway Traffic Act and will be required to appear in court. Now, his name has not been released, but police do say there were no grounds to indicate this was an intentional act or that a criminal offense had been committed. Meanwhile, Halton Police is enhancing efforts to get people to behave a little better in public spaces. To talk more about this is Nikki Wesley, standing by somewhere, well, where I'd like to be right now. Nikki?
Thanks, Melissa. I'm here at Bronte Beach. As you can see behind me, it's filling up quite quickly for a Monday. I'm here to help announce the Project Police on Park Patrol, which launched last week and is a result of numerous new complaints as we've opened up for, into phase 2. Lots of people have come out to the parks, and there's been lots of complaints about mischief, underage drinking, and noise complaints, especially later into the evening. So places like here at Bronte Beach, as well as places like Tannery Park, where you also have lake access, have been particularly boisterous, if you will, as well as parking lots at schools. And there have also been several complaints of people climbing school buildings. So that's obviously something we want to prevent. So Halton Police has started this new initiative, and there will just be increased patrols just to make sure that we don't have underage drinking. People are cleaning up after themselves, and we want to keep up that social distancing. If community members have any concerns, they can email Project POPP at haltonpolice.ca, or they can call the non-emergency line at 905-825-4777 to report nuisance-related concerns. So it's a beautiful day. Get out and enjoy the weather and get out and enjoy the beach, but do so with social distancing in mind, and please clean up after yourselves. With that, I'll throw it back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Nikki. Okay, we're going to take a short break right here. On the other side, though, how COVID-19 is affecting the mental health of our children. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back to Halton News. I'm Melissa Candelaria, filling in for Jessica Kading. We've done many stories in the past to address how COVID-19 can affect your mental health. But did you know how you react as an adult is very different from how our little ones handle it? In this next story, Nikki Wesley gets a little deeper into how we as parents should recognize the signs and what we can do to nurture our children to communicate their feelings.
Clinical Director of Counting Butterflies Child and Family Wellness, Michelle Brands, shares that in the initial days of the pandemic, she saw an influx of new clients dealing with new anxieties and symptoms. She shares this advice for parents trying to help with their children's mental health.
It is slowing down and simplifying so that you can connect and tune in. There are some kids who look like they are functioning beautifully, and then all of a sudden one day they're not. And there are other kids who it's the opposite. They're like screaming loud that they're not okay, and they really need a lot of help. So depression and anxiety and grief can all show up differently for different kids. For some kids, it's going to be a stomach ache. For some kids, it's going to be trouble sleeping. For some kids, it's going to be anger and defiance. For others, it's going to be a lot of fear just in general about everything. It's going to always look different. And because this is the most difficult thing through this pandemic, parents are now being asked to parent and work and do all the things. and it's hard to simplify. And so it's hard sometimes to be able to step back and go, oh, wait, this is what's going on, because we have so much going on ourselves.
Looking towards September, she anticipates an increase in the number of youth dealing with depression symptoms.
And I really feel like as a mental health professional, it's important to talk about how those show up in children and teens, because it's not how it traditionally shows up in adults very often. A lot of times when we think of depression, we think of like just that feeling of blah and like not being able to get out of bed and sadness. And that's oftentimes how it shows up in adults. And from what we see in children and teens, one of the really, really initial signs that you're gonna be seeing for many school-age children and teenagers is irritability.
So how are parents to know what the real reason is behind that tantrum? Parenting coach Megan Jackson of Joyful Mud Puddles works with parents to help them communicate effectively with their children.
The way you talk to your child is going to totally make a big difference. If you come at them with respect and that they feel that they're being heard and that you really want to work with them, then you're going to get way more cooperation than telling them what to do and just say it's my way or the highway. The other thing is helping them be able to manage their own emotions.
Jackson stresses a good understanding of feelings.
Having feelings vocabulary in your family is really important. We actually have a wall in our family room with like posters up of just different emotions. So when you name it, it gives it's not so scary. So you can often with a child just check in with them. Oh, are you feeling worried about this? And the more they get to know the wording, they'll be able to tell you, no, it's not that I'm worried, it's more that I am angry. You don't want to put words in their mouth, but you can check in with that. And once you think about how you're feeling and accept that, I get that you're angry. Wow, that must have been upsetting. They learn to sit with those feelings and not to escape or hide from them. The other thing is that anger is usually the biggest one that parents are concerned about. But anger is often more of like the red warning light on a dashboard, and it's telling you that there's actually more going on underneath.
For more information about mental health during COVID, go to www.camh.ca. And for tips on parenting, go to joyfulmudpuddles.com. Reporting for Halton News, I'm Nikki Wesley.
And if you want to learn more, parenting coach Megan Jackson, who you just saw, is hosting a free virtual event this Wednesday to help parents teach their children to manage big feelings. For more details on that, you can go to joyfulmudpuddles.com. Of course, one of the things you can do with your kids to ease their mental strain is to take them out here. Lowville Park. Don't know if they are trying to catch frogs, maybe some small fish, who knows. It seems like a nice day to do it. And if you didn't make it out today, you can head down there tomorrow, as we will have a mix of sun and cloud at a high of 27 degrees. Now, if you don't mind some rain or jumping up and down in muddy puddles, as a famous little piggy would say, there's a 40% chance of rain for Wednesday at a high of 23 degrees. Chance of showers again on Thursday with some sun sneaking in at 25. Friday, sunshine at 26 degrees. And Saturday, sun and cloud mix at a high of 28. More and more businesses have had to adapt to a new normal, and much of it includes having to modify how their employees work. Simply put, things are becoming more digital. So the Oakville Chamber of Commerce is offering members and non-members alike some help through the Recovery Activation Program, an immersive online workshop. Chamber President and CEO Drew Redden says the goal is to help businesses that have been hit hard because of COVID-19.
What we experienced the last few months, I don't think any business could adequately plan or prepare for that. So what we're doing now is we're looking at the realities of what we have in front of us and understanding what can we do as a chamber network and partnering with chambers across the province to ensure our businesses are prepared for what lies ahead. I think businesses have shown great innovation, have adapted well under the circumstances, but we are not out of the woods yet. There's a lot of work ahead of us. These businesses, big, small, are the lifeblood of our economy here in Canada and here in Oakville. So we have to ensure that they have the tools to make sure they're prepared to move forward in whatever circumstances are thrown at us.
And to learn more about these tools, the Chamber partnered with the Toronto Board of Trade to initiate this Recovery Activation Program, which is completely free.
It's funded by the government and put on in partnership with your chamber network. So chamber member or non-chamber member, any business, large or small, can apply for this. You go online, you do a digital needs assessment, you indicate the Oakville Chamber of Commerce as your sponsoring chamber, and you'll be paired up with mentors. You'll be given the tools to succeed, and talk of everything from member marketing and sales, digital restructure financing, regulatory alignment, technical hardware, digital modernization, all the tools that are going to help your business succeed. A completely free program that will put your business in a great position moving forward.
Now, before we get into today's stocks, I do want to let you know that the Oakville Chamber is hosting their 66th annual golf tournament tomorrow at the Glen Abbey Golf Club. A perfect way to kind of unwind while you're dealing with all this COVID and changes. Phase 3 coming on Friday. It's a great way to spend some time. Here's a look at the stocks. We're going to take another short break right here, but on the other side, the Burlington Food Bank has their daily update. Don't go away. Thanks for sticking with us on Halton News. There's one local business that is actively trying to put themselves out of business. Now, that does seem strange, doesn't it? But to the Burlington Food Bank, going out of business would mean our community and the people that live here are doing just fine. Take a look at today's update.
This is Robin Bailey, the Executive Director of the Burlington Food Bank. And one of the things that people probably don't know about food banks is most of us are actually in the business of trying to put ourselves out of business. We would love it if people didn't need to use us. And whenever we go to our Feed Ontario or Food Banks Canada conferences, it's one of the conversations that we always have around our tables. Just discussions on ways that we can help people sort of get out of the struggle that they're in and be able to start to move forward. We have an advocacy committee with Feed Ontario that I'm a part of, and we're always looking for ways to try and help people out. So when people end up coming in and having to get help from us here at the food bank, we're really trying to help you out at whatever stage you are in life. Whether you have to use us just the one time, or if it's for a little while you kind of get your feet back on the ground, that's what we're here for. We're happy to help out. We have a great support in the community, and we're able to support you in whatever way possible. Remember, just send us an email, info@burlingtonfoodbank.ca, or call us at 905-637-2273.
Now, before I let you go, I wanted to tell you that if you own a business and want more info on the mandatory masks bylaw, the Halton Region Small Business Center is hosting a free webinar Tuesday, tomorrow, 10 a.m. For details on that and to register, go to halton.ca. And that is Halton News. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, for more information on our program, you can always go to our website, yourtv.tv, or connect with us. We want to hear from you on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.